Hello everyone, today I am here to tell you all of the books I read in March. So, first of all, I just want to say, do you guys like this background? It's my living room. It's a lot easier to do filming in here because I don't have to set up any external lights because I have a window right there which provides all my natural light. So it's literally just my camera and the monitor and it's easy. I love filming from my bookshelf, but the lighting is there horrible. So I have to set up like a ring light and like four other lights, and it just takes a lot longer. So I might film here like a lot. Is that okay with you? Do books have to be in the background for videos? Seriously, let me know what you think about this background. I actually really like it. That's just me. But anyway, moving on from that. I read a total of 7 books in March, which is a pretty good reading month for me. I think last month I read 6. There's attributing factors of why I didn't read more this month is mainly because of sickness. Sickness has not left my household. With the weather changing, with mask mandates being lifted, and my Satan stuff, I knew it was going to hit my son a lot because he's in public schools, and it definitely did. This month, he brought home a stomach bug, which I know is sweeping across the country, I've heard. He got it, and then my husband and I got it, and it was brutal. Oh my gosh. And then literally last week he brought home the flu. He's all better now, thankfully. And then now I have a cold from it and I'm recovering from it, but now a baby girl has a cold. My husband's totally fine. So it has just been sickness upon sickness upon sickness in this house, which probably attributes to why I have not read more, but 7 books is what I read. So in total of those 7, let's break down the genres. I read 7 adult books. I've read 0 YA books, which seems to be the trend this year. I read 3 mystery thrillers, 1 kind of fantasy, and 3 romance. So I have a different genre. So yeah, as always with my wrap-ups, I start with my least favorite book, working up to my favorite. I have a lot of 3 stars this month, honestly, and they're kind of on the lower end of the 3 stars. And in fact, the 3 stars I'm going to talk about, first of all, are thrillers I've read. The first one being The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. I really did not like this. And you guys know how much I love The Guest List by her. I really love that book. It's one of my favorite thrillers of all time. This one just disappointed me. It's about a girl named Jess who goes to live with her brother at this Paris apartment, pretty much the title of the book. And when she gets there, he's nowhere to be seen. And she starts to try to do some investigating, sleuthing. And she learns more about this apartment building and the tenants, and it kind of goes on from there. And it was just so boring. I didn't care. The ending wasn't a big shocker. The characters were unlikable. I was just like, ugh. If we're being 1000% honest, I'd probably give this book a 2.5 out of 5. Nothing really came from it. It was just kind of mediocre in my opinion. And yeah, sad to say. It's just weird because with Lucy Foley, I love The Guest List, but I also read another one of her books, The Hunting Party, and I loathe that book. And this kind of reminds me of that a little bit. Next up, we have The Golden Couple by Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. I wasn't going to read this, and my library had it on e-hold, so I was like, oh, I'll read it because I have read a few of their books before. Loved one of them, haven't liked the other ones. This one, I gave it a 3 out of 5. It was okay. This is about a therapist named Avery who has lost her license because she's an intense therapist. She has like these 10 sessions where she can like fix your marriage in 10 sessions. So Marissa and Matthew go and they're trying to fix their marriage, and you learn more about it. Murder might be involved. And again, like kind of The Paris Apartment, it was just boring. Nothing really happened. It was a domestic, what is it? Is it domestic? Is that the right word? Thriller where it's just kind of meh, nothing happened. And this is just another one of those cases that I might just have to stop reading this author duo because I just haven't really enjoyed anything they put out. I've liked the wife, The Wife Before Me, The Wife Between Us. I did enjoy that one. The other books I've read by them, I haven't enjoyed them, so I might just have to be like, I'm kind of done with this author duo, and that's okay, because like I said, I didn't really take away anything from this book. It was just kind of mediocre. And my other thriller 3-star, actually, I'm about to have a video coming up soon where I talk more in depth about these 3, is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. I read this because I'm trying to read more backlist books, you guys know that, and I've heard everybody talk about this book. Everyone loves this book, and it was okay. It was interesting. It's about a character named Ted, I believe, who he meets this girl at an airport bar, and they start commiserating over their lives, and he confides in her that his wife's cheating on him, and she's like, oh man, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to kill her. And she's like, okay, like, let's do it. And it kind of goes from there, and it's interesting. And I didn't love it as much as I wanted to, so I give it a 3 out of 5, but the ending was really interesting. Like, the ending had me, I was like, all right, wasn't expecting that. Was interested in it. So I don't know. This is one of those cases where I might read more from this author. I might not. I haven't heard the best things about his books. Like, when I hear about Peter Swanson, I hear mostly about this book, which is why I read it. And it was okay. Just didn't like overly wow me or really disappoint me. I don't know. My last 3-star I have is a romance book, and that is Fool Me Once by Ashley Winstead. Now, Ashley Winstead wrote In My Dreams I Hold a Knife, which I read in January, I think, and I gave that a 5 out of 5. It's a thriller that I'm obsessed with. It will for sure be really high up on my favorites at the end of the year, and this is her foray into romance, and I have to say, I didn't enjoy it. I think this is just a me thing. I think a lot of people really enjoy this book. It's just my personal taste. So this one, I forget the characters' names. Please forgive me because I read an ebook. But basically, you have a character. It's set in Texas, by the way. So if you like books set in Texas, check it out. She works for like kind of like a Tesla company, electric car company, and they're trying to get this bill passed for, you know, the state to really, the government to use electric cars instead of, you know, gas cars to help the, you know, to help, you know, the world, things like that, great things. But then during this, she runs into her ex-boyfriend named Ben. I think that's his name. And they left kind of tumultuous because she has always, what is her name? Stoner. I think they call her Stoner or something like that. Allison Stone, I don't know. She's always kind of held herself on like this. She's always kind of had a brick wall in front of her because she's experienced a lot of heartbreak in her life. A lot of guys have cheated on her. And Ben is the one guy that she thought that he had cheated on her, but he didn't. So when she learned that he maybe did, she cheated on him first. And she loved him. She truly loved him. Other relationships, she really hasn't. So to see him again, she's like, oh crap, like I wronged this guy and it's been like 10 years since I've seen him. What do I do? And they have to work together. So this book is kind of like a second chance romance, kind of a hate to love because they have this tumultuous past. And it was okay. I think my biggest thing I didn't like about it was very much steeped in politics. And I am not a fan of politics. Sure, like learning about it and, you know, talking about it sometimes to some people, but when I just don't enjoy it, honestly. It just gets so muddled and it gets aggressive and it's just a lot. So if you love books set in the political world and about bills and passing and Republican versus Democrat and left and right and things like that, check out this book. I just don't enjoy talking about that in general, much less reading about it. I think reading is like an escape from that for me, but that's just me personally. I know we should all be well versed in the order of politics, but I don't like them. I just don't like reading about them. So that's not the book's fault at all. That's just my personal preference. I should have known that before going into the book. I just didn't love this book, which is so sad because, like I said, I love the thriller that she wrote and that was just amazing. And this one, I just didn't love it, I think mainly because of politics and things like that. So that's my own personal preference. If you're like, oh my gosh, I love books about politics and romance involved in it, you'll probably love this book. So check it out. It had the great second chance to romance part. They had like one of those instances where they had to share a bed. You know, it has those great things in it. But again, it was just so politically heavy that I was just like, ugh. So that's just me moving on. 4 stars. I have 2 books in my 4 stars. First up being Part of Your Rule by Abby Hemesson, an author that I love. This is a romance book. Again, I forgot the characters' names. But either way, it's pretty much like a rich girl meets poor guy. They fall in love, but they can't be together because of extenuating circumstances. And it's just like, really? But either way, this girl, she is an ER doctor. She wants to be like chief of surgery. Her parents are very revered in the medical world, and she's supposed to marry like another surgeon, but he's a jerk. And then she meets this guy, I forget his name, and he comes from a very small town, and he's like the mayor of this small town, and he does like architecture and like builds things, and you know, she falls in love with him, but she's like, we can't be together because you're from here and I'm from here and it just wouldn't work out. And it's just like, really? But I mean, it makes for a good romance story. So it was definitely really interesting. I really enjoyed it. Again, it's not my favorite of her books. We all know my favorite is the Not So Ever Happy playlist, the Happy Ever After playlist, something like that. I forget the title of it constantly, but this one was a cute one. It's a really romantic heavy one, and I did enjoy it. This one does talk about abuse in a relationship, and that is emotional abuse and physical abuse. So just so you're aware of that, it's not like overly, it's not like really, really dark and deep into it, but it does mention that. So I want to make sure you know that before going into it, in case that's something that triggers you. But I thought the representation for that was really, really well. So I gave it a 4 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I will read anything this author writes because I love her writing. I love how she writes romance and how she puts a lot of realness into her romance. Moving on to my other 4 stars. Is that right? Yeah, I think so. The Roughest Draft by Emily Wibberley and Austin C. Mabroca. This book has been getting mixed reviews. I really enjoyed it, but I could see why a lot of people wouldn't enjoy it. Think of like the opposite of Fool Me Once. I didn't enjoy it, but I could see why a lot of people didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed this one, but I could see why a lot of people didn't enjoy it. It's all about personal preference, you know? That's how it goes. Either way, this is about 2 characters named Katrina and Nathan, and they are best friends, and they're also an author duo. They have written a couple books. One of them made it like huge. It was very popular, but after that book got published, they started to hate each other, and they haven't talked to each other in years, and they're both kind of dwindling in their author careers, and they learn that they have 1 book left on their contract, and so they're like, fine, we'll go to the house we wrote in our first book in Florida to write together. Let's just go ahead and get it done with. So of course, you guessed it, there's a lot of tension. This book should be called not The Roughest Draft, just straight up tension upon miscommunication, because that is the book. These 2 people do not communicate at all. Like, they say so much in the words that they write with the book because they don't know how to talk to each other at all. And that's why I could see why a lot of people would be annoyed by this book, because miscommunication is the forefront in this book. They can't communicate. And I'm like, you're adults. Say what you want to say and let's just be done with it. But no. But, you know, it makes for a very tension-heavy book, and when you finally get to the part where you've been waiting for, it makes it that much sweeter. So I enjoyed it. I did really like it. I gave it a 4 out of 5. This author duo writes predominantly YA contemporary, and I'm kind of growing out of that, so I hope they can continue on with romance, because I'll read it. I like reading about the author process of how they switch pages, how they wrote characters, and how they really got into the nitty-gritty and things like that. So I liked it. 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed it. And my last book, my favorite, should come as no surprise, and that is The House of the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. This is like a adult fantasy, light fantasy, contemporary, if you will. This follows a character named Linus, who works at this like government thing where he oversees orphanages that have magical youth in them, and he goes on these orphanages to make sure that the orphanage is running okay, that the kids are safe, that the owner is doing well, and things like that. And then he gets assigned to this really top secret orphanage that nobody knows about, that the worst of the worst magical children are sent to, and it's this house by the Cerulean Sea. And so he's like, oh my gosh. So he goes there and he learns that there are like 5 kids there. One of them is a garden gnome that's like over 200 years old. One's like a green blob, think of like one from Monsters Inc. And one of them is like the son of the literal devil named Lucy. And so, you know, his assignment is just to like see if everything's going okay. And of course, when he gets there, he starts to fall in love with these kids, and falls in love maybe with the owner of the orphanage, Jasper. And it's just a heartwarming book. This is a book that will just envelope you in a warm hug, and you never want to leave it. It is just so great. I'm sure you've heard a lot about it because everyone seemed to have read it last year with good reason, and I have to say, it's definitely one of my favorites of the year. It was just, I just had a smile on my face the entire time that I read this book. So not much to be said about this one because I feel like everybody and their mothers talked about it, and I'm happy to have read it. I really am. There you have all of the books I read in March, 7 books. I'm hoping that April will bring no more sicknesses in my house. Please, please, please. And I can read more and things like that, and the weather gets more stable, because when it gets to be warmer, I read a lot more because my kids are outside. It's weird to say kids plural now, but that's how it is. But either way, I would love to know if you've read any of these books, what you thought about them, and things like that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.